Well, I appreciate what Javas is saying about extrajudicial killing that they may have happened during prior administrations. But we cannot use that one as an excuse to say that they're going to be happen during this administration. You know, I don't know if that is called false equivalence or it's a fallacy of generalization. There's a fallacy there. What Kenyans expect to do is that under this administration, if there's been extrajudicial killing, people have been abducted, there must be criminal and pecuniary responsibility. That the people who pulled the trigger must be held accountable.
The people who beat somebody to death in a cell.
Or if somebody gave instructions, then they must be held to accountable. For Mora, who lives and works in Mosocho, she doesn't care what happened during the other administrations. But if her daughter or her son goes missing, she wants somebody to face justice. And that is where you expect leadership. Now, when you're talking about compensation, well, people love money. But if somebody is dead, you can give her however much money you want to, but it's not going to save her anything, which is the reason why there must be that criminal and the pecuniary responsibility, that somebody must be held behind bars. And, we know human beings respond, the pain and pleasure principle. If you're a law enforcement officer, you know that if you're going to engage in killing and it's against the forces standing order, then you're going to face the law. That is what Kenyans need. But outside that, again, Dennis, it would be erroneous to use your premises. Every country in the world has got a law enforcement system. Every country in the world has got a prison system. The people commit crimes every day and they're held accountable. So the question is whether the law enforcement system works. And going to the successes, you can talk about FDI. You are talking about stability. I would give an example. The people who work at Radix Hotel, where this Messiah conference took place, they were happy with having these bishops coming to Kenya because you had many more suppliers, people sold their goods and services, and they're generally happy. When Kenya is positioned as an FDI destination, you have many people coming to invest here and you create employment and wealth. It's very easy to pick up a certain lens or a certain bias and say, nothing is working within a particular state. But I think we have got a responsibility to try to be objective and remove any biases that we may have. Because being very controversial is a very interesting position. But when you look at the facts and figures, they paint an entirely different picture. And in my view, that is where I wanted to say the challenge with the President Ruto's administration is communication. That some of their signature events have not been well communicated, and most of the principal secretaries and even cabinet secretaries hardly talk about the successes of their departments or ministries. In fact, for me, and I stand corrected, apart from Musalia Mudavadi and Mbadi, I don't see other cabinet secretaries talking about the successes in their ministries. And apart from Susan Mangeni, I don't see other principal secretaries talking about their state departments. They are operating on nil by mouth. And if you don't do that, it's like you're winking at a girl in the dark. So you know what you are doing, but the girl has no idea. So if they sort out the communication challenge, it will come out. But then it will only be a success if they've got trusted messengers. Yeah. In other words, they must come up with a very solid strategic narrative and deploy it. And finally, it's a reality about political science that voters hardly reward an administration for socioeconomic successes. You can hit all the high notes, but you are not going to be rewarded by another term. No, but voters tend to punish people who do not deliver, which is the reason why President Ruto's administration must recalibrate and re-strategize on their communication strategy for them to be a success.